The massive hunting vessel Star Seeker appeared in Earth's orbit on a cold December morning. Its black and silver hull gleamed against the backdrop of stars, nearly as large as a small moon. Inside, Grand Hunter Marcus stood at the ship's main viewing window, his tall frame wrapped in ceremonial hunting gear that sparkled with embedded trophies from 1,000 successful hunts. Computer, display analysis of Earth's primary predator species, Marcus commanded, his deep voice echoing through the ship's control room. The air in front of him filled with holographic images of Earth's various predators: lions, tigers, bears, and wolves, among others. Behind him, 12 of the galaxy's most renowned hunters gathered around the display, their expressions a mixture of amusement and disappointment. These hunters had taken down creatures that could swallow Earth's largest predators whole. They had fought beasts that breathed fire and acid, monsters that could level entire forests with a single strike. "These are their deadliest predators?" asked Hunter Rex, letting out a laugh that sounded like grinding metal. "The largest one barely reaches my chest height. We hunt prey of this size as practice for our youngsters." Marcus zoomed in on a polar bear, the largest land predator on Earth. According to the data, the natives consider this one particularly dangerous. They call it a polar bear. It weighs approximately 600 kilograms at maximum. The hunters burst into laughter again. Last month, they had hunted the crystal behemoths of Proxima 7, creatures that weighed over 50,000 kilograms and could crush spacecraft with their jaws. "This must be some mistake," said Hunter Val, adjusting her plasma rifle's strap across her shoulder. "Surely they have something more impressive, something worthy of our skills." Marcus scrolled through more images: jaguars stalking through jungles, great white sharks breaching the ocean's surface, crocodiles lurking in murky waters. Each new image brought more mockery from the assembled hunters. "Perhaps we should broadcast our assessment," suggested Rex. "Let the humans know how their precious predators compare to real hunters from across the galaxy. It might humble them a bit." Marcus nodded, pressing a button on the holographic display. "Computer, begin transmission on all Earth frequencies." The ship's AI responded instantly, and Marcus began his speech. "People of Earth, we are the Star Stalkers, the galaxy's most elite hunting organization. We have reviewed your planet's wildlife, particularly your predator species. We must inform you that they are disappointingly primitive. Your largest predators would be considered mere cubs on most developed worlds." He continued, his voice dripping with condescension. "Your fearsome bears, your mighty lions, your terrible wolves, they are nothing compared to the beasts we regularly hunt. Your predators lack the basic evolutionary advantages that make a truly dangerous creature. They have no energy projection abilities, no natural armor, no psychic capabilities. They are, to be frank, embarrassingly simple." The hunters watched as their message was translated into Earth's various languages and broadcast across the planet. They took particular pleasure in describing how their youngest members trained on creatures far more dangerous than anything Earth had to offer. "Let this be a lesson in humility," Marcus concluded. "Your world is young, and your predators are primitive. Perhaps in a few million years, they might evolve into something worthy of our attention." As the transmission ended, Marcus turned to his fellow hunters. "Well, shall we make a brief stopover? We could bag a few of these polar bears as souvenirs. It won't be much of a challenge, but it might make for amusing trophies." The hunters agreed, already planning how they would display these primitive Earth creatures in their trophy rooms. None of them noticed the small alert flashing on their computer screen, a warning about an unusually aggressive species called Gulo, commonly known as the Wolverine. Little did they know, their greatest challenge awaited them not in the stars, but in the snowy wilderness of Earth. Jack Thompson sat in his small cabin near the edge of Alaska's wilderness, listening to the alien's message on his old radio. His weathered face, marked by 30 years of guiding expeditions through the harshest environments on Earth, broke into a slight smile. Next to his chair, his old hunting dog raised its head, sensing its master's amusement. They don't have a clue, do they, boy? Jack said, scratching behind the dog's ears. He looked out his frost-covered window at the vast expanse of snow-covered forest. The temperature outside was dropping below -40 degrees, and the wind howled like a hungry beast. Jack had seen plenty of cocky hunters in his time, but these aliens took arrogance to a whole new level. He thought about all the times he'd seen mighty hunters with their expensive gear and big talk get humbled by the Alaskan wilderness. These aliens needed a similar lesson. He walked over to his communication setup, a mix of standard radio equipment and new satellite gear the government had given all remote residents after first contact. His hands, scared from countless encounters with the wilderness, moved across the controls with practiced ease. "This is Jack Thompson, broadcasting from Alaska." He spoke into the microphone. "I heard your message about Earth's predators. Seems to me you folks are judging things a bit too quickly." The response came almost immediately. The aliens had been monitoring Earth's communications, amused by the angry reactions to their broadcast. Marcus's voice filled Jack's cabin. "And what would a primitive human know about real hunting?" Jack's smile grew wider. "I've been a wilderness guide for 3 decades, seen every predator this land has to offer. But there's one creature even I won't mess with, one that even bears give a wide berth to." The alien's laughter echoed through his speakers. "And what mighty beast would that be?" Rex's mocking voice asked. "Another of your oversized cats." "Nope," Jack replied calmly. "I'm talking about something smaller. Something that weighs less than 30 kilograms, but can take down prey 10 times its size. Something that can chase a wolf pack away from their kill. Something we call the Wolverine." There was a pause, then more laughter. "You jest." Val's voice crackled through the radio. "A creature that small. We hunt space slugs bigger than that." Jack leaned back in his chair. "Size isn't everything. This animal has earned the nickname Devil Bear. It can survive in temperatures that would freeze your blood solid. It can fight a grizzly bear and live to tell about it. Its jaws can crush frozen bones like they're made of butter." "Interesting tale, human," Marcus responded condescendingly. "Perhaps you'd care to make this more entertaining. A challenge, perhaps." "That's exactly what I'm offering," Jack said. "Come down here. Try to hunt a Wolverine. Show us how superior your hunting skills are." The aliens conferred among themselves, their translated whispers carrying through the radio. Finally, Marcus spoke again. "We accept your primitive challenge. We'll even make it sporting. We'll hunt on foot, though we'll keep our standard gear. It should take no more than an hour to locate and kill this small beast of yours. One more thing," Jack added. "You might want to bring extra supplies. Weather forecast says we're about to get hit by one of the worst storms of the season. Could last for days." "Weather is no concern to us," Marcus declared. "We'll begin our hunt at dawn tomorrow. Perhaps we'll mount this Wolverine in our trophy room, if it's even worth the effort." As the transmission ended, Jack looked at his dog and shook his head. "They have no idea what they're getting into, do they?" Outside, the wind grew stronger, and somewhere in the darkness, a lone Wolverine tracked an elk through the deepening snow, its powerful muscles carrying it tirelessly through terrain that would exhaust most other predators. Soon, it would have some new prey to stalk. The alien hunting party materialized at the edge of the Alaskan wilderness just as the sun began to rise. Their thermal suits glowed softly against the pre-dawn darkness, advanced technology attempting to shield them from the brutal cold that had already reached -45 degrees Celsius. "These conditions are unexpected," Hunter Val said, her breath forming thick clouds in the freezing air. Their suits were struggling to maintain their normal body temperature, something that had never happened before on any other world. Marcus checked his tracking device, frowning at the readings. "The cold is interfering with our sensors. They're picking up multiple heat signatures, but they're all distorted." He tapped the screen in frustration. On other worlds, their technology could track a target from orbit with perfect accuracy. The group moved forward through the deep snow, their boots crunching with each step. Rex pulled out his plasma rifle, then cursed as it sputtered and whined. The power cells are losing charge faster than normal. This cursed cold is affecting everything. Silence, Marcus commanded, holding up his hand. Look there. He pointed to a set of tracks in the snow, wide-set prints that showed clear claw marks. But something was odd about them. The tracks seemed to go in random directions, sometimes doubling back on themselves, other times splitting into multiple paths. The creature is confused, Val said confidently. It must sense our presence and is running scared. A low chuckle came from behind them. Jack Thompson stood there, wrapped in thick winter gear that looked primitive compared to their suits, but somehow he seemed completely comfortable in the cold. Those tracks ain't from confusion, Jack said, pointing to the various paths. That's a hunting pattern. Your Wolverine is actively patrolling its territory. Probably already knows you're here too. Marcus scoffed. Impossible. Our stealth technology makes us virtually undetectable. Just then, a sharp crack echoed through the trees. One of the hunters' supply packs had been left at the edge of their group. Now it lay torn open, its contents scattered across the snow, but there was no sign of what had done it. Did anyone see anything? Rex asked, his voice showing the first signs of uncertainty. Jack smiled. You won't see it unless it wants you to. Wolverines can move faster than you'd believe through this terrain. Right now, it's probably. Another crack, this time from the opposite direction. A second supply pack destroyed. Testing your defenses, Jack finished. The hunters formed a defensive circle, weapons ready. Their superior technology, worth fortunes on other worlds, seemed to sputter in the intense cold. Their motion trackers showed blips appearing and disappearing at random. There, Val shouted, firing her plasma rifle at a dark shape moving through the trees. The shot went wide, the cold affecting the weapon's targeting systems. Steam rose from where the plasma bolt melted the snow. A deep guttural growl echoed through the forest. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, the sound bouncing off trees and snowbanks. The hunters had heard the roars of monsters 100 times larger, but something about this growl made their skin crawl. That's impossible, Marcus muttered, checking his readings again. The creature's body mass is tiny compared to our usual prey. How is it generating that kind of sound? Jack started walking away, shaking his head. Might want to set up camp before the storm hits. And I'd keep a close watch on your equipment. Wolverines are curious about new things in their territory. They're also surprisingly good at breaking stuff they're curious about. As if to emphasize his point, another crack echoed through the trees, followed by the distinctive sound of expensive alien technology being reduced to scrap. The hunters stood in the growing snowfall, their certainty beginning to crack like the ice beneath their feet. Somewhere in the white expanse around them, a 30-pound predator was systematically dismantling everything they relied on for survival. And the storm hadn't even started yet. The storm hit with full force as night fell. The alien hunters huddled in their hastily constructed camp, their sophisticated equipment beeping warnings about failing power systems. The temperature had dropped even further, and the wind howled through the trees like a living thing. Our hunting algorithms are useless, Val said, staring at her portable computer. This creature doesn't follow any known hunting patterns. It's not acting like proper prey at all. Marcus stood by the camp's energy barrier, watching the swirling snow beyond. Their barrier, which could normally stop a charging Titan beast of Centauri, was flickering weakly in the cold. It's been 12 hours, he growled. 12 hours, and we haven't even got a clear shot at the target. A dark shape moved through the trees, too quick to track. Rex fired his plasma rifle, but the shot went wide, the weapon's targeting system confused by the blowing snow. The shape vanished, leaving only tracks that seemed to lead in 3 different directions at once. The tracks make no sense, Rex said, frustration clear in his voice. Look at this pattern. It's as if. He stopped as realization dawned. As if it's mapping our defensive positions. Impossible, Marcus snapped. No primitive Earth creature could. His words were cut off by a loud crash from the supply tent. They rushed over to find their food storage unit torn open, the contents scattered and mostly ruined. The damage had happened despite their motion sensors and automated defenses. How? Val whispered. The barrier was active. Nothing should have been able to get through. Jack's voice crackled over their communicators. He had returned to his cabin, but kept in radio contact. Wolverines are problem solvers, he explained, amusement in his voice. Looks like yours found the weak spot in your barrier where it meets the ground. Probably dug under it while you were all watching the trees. The hunters checked the barrier's base. Sure enough, there was a shallow tunnel going right under it, already partially filled with falling snow. Their supposedly impenetrable defense had been outsmarted by what they had dismissed as a primitive animal. This is no mere beast, Marcus said, his voice now carrying a hint of respect. Its behavior suggests intelligence, strategy. A series of growls echoed through the storm, seeming to come from all directions at once. The hunters raised their weapons, forming a circle, but their motion trackers were going haywire, showing multiple targets that appeared and disappeared randomly. It's using the storm to mask its movements, Val realized. And the cold, it's not affecting it at all. Of course not, Jack's voice crackled through the radio. Wolverines are built for this weather. This is their element. You folks ever wonder why Earth's predators don't need energy weapons or natural armor? They've got something better. Millions of years of evolution, perfectly adapting them to survive in the harshest conditions imaginable. As if to prove his point, another crash came from the opposite side of the camp. One of their hovering cargo units had been knocked over, its contents now buried in the snow. The Wolverine had struck again while they were distracted by its previous attack. Marcus checked their remaining supplies. At this rate, we won't have anything left by morning. We need to change our strategy. We're not hunting this creature anymore. No, Rex agreed, staring into the swirling snow. It's hunting us. A dark shape darted through their camp, moving faster than their cold-affected reflexes could track. In its wake, it left more destruction. Torn equipment, scattered supplies, and the growing realization that they were dealing with something far more formidable than they had imagined. In the distance, barely visible through the storm, a pair of eyes reflected their camp's lights. The Wolverine watched, waited, and planned its next move. The night was still young, and it had all the time in the world to teach these intruders about true survival. Dawn never really came. The storm had grown so thick that day was barely brighter than night. The alien hunters, exhausted from their sleepless watch, made a fatal mistake. They split into 3 groups to cover more ground. "We'll flush it out," Marcus had ordered, his pride overwhelming his better judgment. Team 1, head north. Team 2, south. Team 3, with me to the east. Drive it into the open. Val led Team 1, trudging through snow that reached her knees. Their thermal suits were operating at less than 30% power now, and the cold was seeping into their bones. The 2 hunters with her kept their weapons ready, though the energy cells were nearly depleted. "Movement," one of her team members shouted. 10 meters ahead. They raised their weapons, but the shadow was already gone. Then they heard it, a deep, rumbling growl from behind them. Val turned slowly, her eyes widening at what she saw. The Wolverine stood on a fallen log, its dark fur dusted with snow. It wasn't large, barely reaching their knees, but its presence filled the clearing with a palpable sense of danger. Its eyes, intelligent and fearless, studied them with predatory focus. "By the stars," Val whispered. "It's not running anymore." The Wolverine's attack was blindingly fast. It launched itself through the air, a compact missile of muscle and fury. Their armor, designed to withstand energy weapons and alien claws, met something it had never been tested against: the bite force of Earth's most determined predator. The Wolverine's jaws clamped down on Val's arm, and the supposedly unbreakable armor cracked like an eggshell. Her scream echoed through the forest. followed by the panicked shots of her teammates. But the creature was already gone, vanishing into the swirling snow. Emergency beacon. Val gasped, clutching her injured arm. We need to. The words died in her throat. The Wolverine had destroyed their emergency beacon during the night. They were alone. Meanwhile, Team 2 faced their own nightmare. The Wolverine had somehow circled around through the storm, attacking them from behind. One hunter lay in the snow, his leg mangled where the Wolverine had torn through his armor like it was made of paper. Marcus. Rex shouted into his communicator. It's toying with us, using the storm to attack all our groups. Static was his only answer. Their communications were down. Back at what remained of their camp, Marcus and Team 3 heard the distant sounds of combat. The proud leader of the Starstalkers felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear, not of death. He had faced death many times. No, this was fear of being completely outmatched. A blood-curdling scream cut through the storm. Another hunter down. The Wolverine was picking them off one by one, using the weather and terrain to its advantage. It seemed impossible that such a small creature could disable the galaxy's most elite hunting team, but that's exactly what was happening. Through his failing communicator, Jack's voice crackled one last time. You wanted to learn about Earth's predators. Well, here's your lesson. Size doesn't matter. Fancy weapons don't matter. What matters is the will to survive, the ability to adapt, and the determination to never, ever back down. That's what Earth's predators evolved to have. The storm grew stronger, and in its howling winds, Marcus heard something that sounded like laughter. The Wolverine was still out there, still hunting, still undefeated. In all his years of hunting the galaxy's deadliest creatures, he had never encountered anything like this. As if reading his thoughts, a deep growl emerged from the whiteout. The Wolverine had come for the leader's group. And this time, it wasn't going to disappear into the storm. It was time for the final lesson. In the gathering darkness of the Alaskan wilderness, the remains of the Starstalkers hunting party huddled together in a small cave. Their technological advantages were gone. No working weapons, no communication devices, no thermal protection. 5 of their 12 hunters were injured, their supposedly impenetrable armor torn and crushed by the Wolverine's relentless attacks. Marcus tended to Val's wounded arm, using primitive medical supplies they'd salvaged from their scattered equipment. In all my years, he said quietly, I've never seen anything like this. We've hunted creatures that could swallow cities whole, but they all followed predictable patterns. This is different. Outside, the storm raged on. The temperature had dropped even further, and their bodies, adapted for the warm climates of their homeworld, were starting to shut down. The cave offered little protection from the brutal cold. Did you see its eyes? Rex whispered, his voice shaking slightly. When it attacked my group, it wasn't just hunting. It was thinking, planning. It herded us here, away from our supplies, away from any chance of rescue. A low growl echoed through the cave entrance, causing everyone to freeze. The Wolverine was still out there, still watching, still hunting. It had been 36 hours since they landed, and the creature showed no signs of tiring. If anything, it seemed to be getting stronger, more confident. Our archives, Val said through chattering teeth, they speak of ancient predators on our homeworld, before we developed our technology. Creatures that hunted not with size or strength alone, but with endurance and cunning. We thought those days were long past. That technology had made such primitive hunting methods obsolete. Marcus nodded grimly. We were wrong. This Wolverine, it's showing us what real hunting looks like. No fancy weapons, no tracking systems, no protective suits. Just pure raw survival skills honed by millions of years of evolution. A dark shape appeared at the cave entrance, silhouetted against the swirling snow. The Wolverine stood there, its powerful body tense but calm, steam rising from its fur in the frigid air. It showed no fear, no hesitation. Only the cold calculation of an apex predator. Look at it, Rex whispered in awe. "The storm, the cold, the constant fighting, none of it has any effect. This is its world, and we're the ones who don't belong." The Wolverine took a step forward, its claws clicking on the stone floor of the cave. The hunters pressed themselves against the back wall, their wounds and the cold having sapped their will to fight. They finally understood what true fear felt like, not the fear of dying, but the fear of being completely powerless against a superior predator. Suddenly, a new sound cut through the storm, the whump-lump-lump of helicopter blades. A bright light swept across the cave entrance, and the Wolverine melted away into the darkness like a ghost. "This is search and rescue," the voice boomed from outside. "Jack Thompson reported your situation. Hold on, we're coming to get you out." As the rescue team approached, Marcus looked at his fellow hunters. Their faces showed the same mix of relief and humility that he felt. They had come to Earth expecting to find primitive, simple predators. Instead, they had encountered something that had fundamentally changed their understanding of what it meant to be a true hunter. "When we get back," Marcus said softly, "we need to rewrite our hunting manuals. Size, strength, energy weapons, none of that matters as much as we thought. The most dangerous predator isn't the one with the biggest claws or the strongest armor. It's the one that never gives up, never tires, and never stops learning how to kill you." Through the swirling snow, a pair of eyes watched the rescue operation. The Wolverine had taught these alien hunters a lesson they would never forget. Earth's predators might not breathe fire or shoot plasma, but they had something far more valuable: the unbreakable spirit of survival itself. 1 month after their rescue from the Alaskan wilderness, the Star Stalkers stood before the Galactic Hunting Council in their great hall. The chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, all gathered to hear the report of what had happened on Earth. Marcus stepped forward, his arm still in a healing unit from the Wolverine's attack. The proud hunter had changed. There was a new humility in his stance, a deep respect in his voice as he began to speak. "Honored Council," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber, "we come before you to officially update the galactic classification of Earth's predator species. Our previous assessment was—" He paused, choosing his words carefully, deeply flawed. Murmurs spread through the assembled crowd. The Star Stalkers admitting a mistake was unprecedented. On the viewing screen behind Marcus, images appeared. The Wolverine's tracks in the snow, the destroyed equipment, the shattered pieces of their unbreakable armor. "We judged Earth's predators by our standards," Val added, stepping forward to join Marcus. "We looked for size, for energy weapons, for natural armor. We were blind to something far more important: the raw, unstoppable force of evolutionary adaptation." Rex activated a hologram showing their encounter with the Wolverine. The assembled hunters gasped as they watched the small creature systematically dismantle the galaxy's most advanced hunting team. "This animal," Marcus continued, weighing less than 30 kilograms, "survived conditions that disabled our best technology. It outmaneuvered hunters with centuries of experience. It showed problem-solving skills that rivaled our tactical computers. And most importantly, it demonstrated something we had forgotten in our reliance on technology: the true spirit of what it means to be a predator." In the front row of the chamber, Jack Thompson sat as an honored guest. He smiled as Marcus gestured to him respectfully. "The humans have a saying," Marcus said. "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. We learned this lesson the hard way. Earth's predators don't need energy beams or natural armor. They have something far more valuable: millions of years of evolution crafting them into perfect survival machines." The council leader leaned forward. "What do you propose?" "First," Marcus replied, "Earth should be reclassified as a Class A hunting world, the highest difficulty rating. Second, we recommend all hunting expeditions to Earth be suspended until we can develop new protocols. Our current methods are inadequate." He pressed a button, and new images appeared: Earth's various predators in their natural habitats. These creatures aren't primitive. They're specialized killing machines, perfectly adapted to their environments. The Wolverine taught us that true danger isn't measured in size or technological advancement. It's measured in will, in adaptability, and in the fierce determination to survive. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Jack stood up and walked to the podium, joining the hunters who had once mocked Earth's wildlife. "You folks are welcome back anytime," he said with a grin. "But next time, maybe leave the fancy gear behind. Come learn how we hunt on Earth, with respect for our prey and humility in our hearts." Marcus nodded. "We will return, but as students, not conquerors. Earth has much to teach us about what it truly means to be a hunter." As the council voted unanimously to accept the Star Stalker's recommendations, Marcus looked at the final image on the screen. The Wolverine standing proud in the snow, defiant and undefeated. In all his years of hunting across the galaxy, he had never encountered anything that had earned his respect quite like that small but fierce creature. Back on Earth, in the vast wilderness of Alaska, the Wolverine continued its endless patrol, indifferent to its new status as one of the galaxy's most feared predators. It had no need for titles or recognition. It was simply doing what its kind had done for millions of years, surviving, hunting, and proving that on Earth, evolution had created something even more impressive than all the advanced weapons in the galaxy: the perfect predator.